Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? What we're going to be talking about today is something that I was asked to speak about, okay? And I'm going to be doing two videos, okay, on this. And it's about common sense and another one about why, you know, families are falling apart, okay? And the reasons why people appear to ignore common sense, all right? We all fall prey to cognitive biases, right? Mental shortcuts that help us simplify, but also misinterpret the really enormous amount of information that we must process on a daily basis, okay? And people tend to believe their own data, really. And years ago, I knew someone who would only ever believe the experts, if you would. She consulted with her own personal experiences. If someone had a contrary opinion or relayed information from a different authoritative source, her own personal evidence was the only information that she believed. It was one of those, okay? Now, confirmation bias plays a role in this, and that's our tendency to seek, interpret, give preference to, and remember facts and evidence in a way that confirms that we already believed. And there is an willingness to consider other possibilities. And another thing that we always hear is, it won't happen to me. It'll never happen here. This won't ever happen, right? Well, what if it does? You know, it's one of those. For those who make apparently foolish decisions in the face of a crisis, the truth is that for many, it's only when their car's engine is flooded or their home begins filling up with water and that they believe it could only happen to them. Okay, it's one of those. This leads to normalcy bias, and our incredible brains insist that everything is fine, life will continue as usual, as it's a way of maintaining psychological and emotional equilibrium. I've learned personally that once you've experienced one hurricane or another or a series of similar crises, you do tend to believe that everything's going to be fine, right? How many hurricanes have I been through since I've lived in Florida? You know, they all seem like they're the same until I learned something different, right? It's a combination of the brain sending a message and then the receiver being too willing to believe. This is a factor in the handling of the December 2022 storm in Buffalo, New York, a city well accustomed to such weather. How about Hurricane Ian? Okay. How about the flooding that just occurred in Fort Lauderdale? How about the snow blizzard that happened in Texas? Okay. There's so many different scenarios that I can throw at you. All right. And then there are practical reasons for people showing an apparent lack of common sense. In many cases, people have no resources for evacuations. They may have no money for a hotel, no family, no friends for whom they can stay. Okay, I get it. Additionally, if they are overworked, overstressed, they have probably not spent much time researching survival and preparedness. I understand that. Then again, there's several other reasons for not listening to advice, to warnings, even orders. from their local government, like evacuation orders. How many times have you, have you heard, whether it's a hurricane or this, that, and the other, and we'll ride it out, and then the next thing you know, they're on their roof going, help, help. Okay. I began prepping years and years ago, but we only prepped for hurricane season, and then it all hit, and I said, oh shit. You know what I mean? And it's been 3 years, maybe a little bit longer, when we really started to pound it in, and we really started to prep hard, and we really started to dig our heels in and say, this is priority, right? And we really started to see everything, and I'm so glad that we did. And we started storing water, toilet paper, food, basics. And I did my research, and I started vlogging and putting everything up on YouTube. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And I learned from some of the best preppers I ever found on YouTube. Prepper Nurse One, Angry Prepper. Okay, and I listened to everything that they had to say. Everything. I was writing notes. Doom, 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 doom. I listened. And I accredit them for everything that I know. Have I made mistakes? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah. But I had to do my own research, and I had to learn from those mistakes. Right on. Now, for some, that works, okay? Research, learning from their mistakes. But for most people, they don't have the time to research or the money for expensive mistakes. I really didn't make any expensive mistakes. I will say that. I really didn't make any expensive mistakes because I was learning from other people, and I was watching everything that they did, okay? In spite of knowing full well that I needed to prepare. And as I've been saying, everyone will have their own Hurricane Ian, their own Texas snow blizzard, their own their own natural disaster. I'll just say that. For me, though, it's hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. Okay, but it's my environment that I live in, okay? And the devastation can last for weeks, for months. Now for you, it could be something completely different. It could be job loss, power outages last for several days, earthquake, other natural disaster. It doesn't matter. You prep for your own reasons, yes? And trust me, there are plenty of reasons. But unlike me, though, you don't have to go and do things alone. Like for me, when I started prepping, like really hardcore, I was on my own. My husband, he was just like, hey, and I'm like, all right, fine. When SHTF happens, don't you dare touch that food. And then when I started telling him all these things that I was learning, all these events that started occurring, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. And then he started seeing everything for himself. And he was like, you're right. Yeah, I know I'm right. It was one of those. Because I would show him something. He'd be like, where'd you learn that? One of those purple channels. I'd be like, do your own research. And he did. And then he was like, oh my gosh, they're right. You're right. Uh-huh. So, even though it's frustrating to watch people ignore common sense and put themselves, their loved ones, and often first responders in more danger, it also doesn't help to demonize people, right? Instead, encourage where you can, educate where there is interest, and help as you see fit, okay? So, why? Why do you think more people ignore common sense in a crisis? It's a good question. It's a rational question, right? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'll see you in the next one, all right? You stay safe, you stay positive, you keep prepping, and as always, fearless. Ciao.